Hi guys. Um, Today we I will be teaching HTML form and validation. I'm Tash. Um, let's get into it. Um, let's break it down simply and clearly. What is an HTML form? Let's go to the text editor. Uh, just hold on. Let's close this. This. Okay. Let's open a new file. We are going to work in. Okay. Mm, okay, let's open a new folder. Okay, some practice folders there. Or we can create our own folder. Let's save our own folder first. Come on. Um, mm, where is it? HTML form validation. HTML form validation. Okay, so let's open that folder. That's the folder we're going to be working with. Now, we see what is HTML, right? What is HTML form? And an HTML form is used to collect user input. That's the simplest thing that an HTML form is used for. It's used to collect user input on a web page, like names, emails, passwords, feedbacks, and so on. Yeah, I mean, literally any information that you want for a user, you use a form. It's called HTML form to get that information from the user. Yeah, so it's created using the form tag. This let's open an HTML. Okay, I create a new file. Say HTML form. I will say yeah, let's say index dot HTML. Now let's create a simple boilerplate. Oh man, yeah, that's it. Now let's talk about HTML form validation. Right now, you see, an HTML form is actually created by the form tag. Now, the form tag is created like this. If you haven't been using HTML, I would recommend you check out my beginner friendly HTML tutorial. I mean, this is a little advanced. So, you type the less than and then type form. I'm using Visual Studio, so which it just pop up. Now form, so this is the tag that is used for the HTML form. I see like this, the opening tag and the closing tag. That's how we create an HTML form. And usually include inputs like text boxes, buttons, radio buttons, and buttons. I mean, when you are creating a form and you need information from the user, these are information. These are how you call it, things that we include in the form to get information from the user. Text boxes, which could include the username, the user password, so the user must type or text into that form that will be sent back to the back end. And then we also include radio buttons that when you want to have an option, and then also button. Now, okay, let us create a simple form so I can show you. Oh, okay, let me talk about validation, right? Validation. So in web development, there are two types of validation. We have the HTML form validation, and then we also use JavaScript to validate our form. So I'll be teaching you the HTML today, and then in the next video we will jump into JavaScript. So we say, what is validation? Validation checks whether the user has entered valid data before submitting the form. So when we create a form, we want to check whether the user has entered or a value into that form. And if the user enters a value, then the form will validate and then be sent. But if the user doesn't enter anything into the form, there should be a prompt that will say, oh, you haven't entered or a value, or please enter a text. Yeah, that's what we call validation. There are two main tests, like I said, the HTML validation and the JavaScript. I'm not doing something and JavaScript. So I said I'm doing something, man.
Nah, my bed on brains out.
What is doing? She's sleeping?
No.
I will come for her doing something. Sorry for that. I'm a little taller. So like I said, HTML and JavaScript. We use HTML and JavaScript to validate our form, right? So HTML5 have a built-in validation, no JavaScript needed. That's what we use. I'm going to be teaching today, right? So we use attribute like required. You see in a minute, and field must be field. So whenever we type the required attribute into the form, it means that field has to be filled before the form be submitted. If you don't type anything, the form will not be submitted to the server. So we use the required attribute as a validation. So we force the user to type into the field. Now we have the type attribute. Now the type attribute simply you got like when you are creating an input, we tell what type of input is that. The input tag that you'll see in a minute. As you create an input tag, we put a tag there like email or text or button to tell the user that yes, this is an email field. or this is a text box, or this is a button, or this is a password field that you need to type your password there. Literally, we use label to display on the front end, but within the input tag, we use that type attribute to tell the server, yeah, this is an email that we are expecting from the user. It must be valid and valid email before it be sent. So if you type anything into an email field, it will not be validated and the form won't be sent. So we also have the meaning, the maximum length, the meaning length, the maximum length, and we also have pattern. I'll show that in a minute. But in which customer regular expression for advanced validation. If you know, like if you say this text box is from A to Z, A to Z capital letter and A to Z small letter, or it's from A to D. Yeah, so that's the pattern you want the user to type in, whether capital letter or small letter. Yeah, so let's get into creating a form. Now, like you see here, the form tag. So the first attribute we are going to use here is the action attribute within the form tag. Now, I will not get too deep into teaching you what is an attribute or something, but the action attribute literally tells the form where the form will be submitted. So as you click, there's an action that is going on. So we use action, and then we'll be submitting it to a PHP server. So submit .php, right? Now the second attribute that we are going to use is the method. Now, yeah, many methods in your HTML form, like but mainly we use two: the get method and the post method. Yeah, I'll be going deep into that into another video, but for now let's use the post method. Post, and then save. Now into the form, this is just the when you are creating a form, right? So now into that form we create input tags. But first, before we create an input tag, we have to create something called a label, right? For good tips, always we use a label, because a label will tell the user what should be typed into that info field, and also it's good for accessibility. Yeah, accessibility is if someone like a disabled person who don't see but hear, I mean, the accessibility we tell them that, yeah, this is or the label tag will be there to tell them that, yeah, this is a username tag or username input or a password input, so on. So we always use label. Now to create a label, we just type label, press enter, and then we use the for attribute, right? And what we use here is name, because we are creating a full name. So we say name, So we say name and then full name. Full name. And we use a break tag at the end. PR. Yeah. And then we come to the input tag. I don't really want to use a break tag here, so let's type the label and it's the input. Use say input, and then the type. This is what I was talking about. This is the type attribute. So Visual Studio just suggests some of the attribute that we use. So I would recommend you use Visual Studio as well. VS Code, I mean. Now the type attribute, we are expecting a text, right? So we leave it as it is, and then we add ID. There's another attribute, and the ID will be name. And then we add another attribute which is name. We'll say name is equal to name as well. Then we also require the user to type their name into the form, right? So we add the required attribute which I was talking about earlier. So we say require you, and then let's add two break tag. BR. Okay, great. So now before I go further, let me show you how it is displaying on the front end. So let's use live server here to display. Okay, great. Now you see, right? This. So this, you see here, this label is displaying the, yeah. And then this is the input tag, which is expecting a text field. Now you simply type in your full name, so you can enter your full name here. And we'll come back later. Let's complete the form. Okay, so the next one, that's our label again. And then we say, okay, that's an email, right? So we say for an email. Email. Then say email address. Email address. DDRESS. Email address. Now that's our input tag. And then this will be typed email. Don't forget email. Then the ID will be email. And then name will be email as well. Email. And then there's also require. So we add a required attribute. Yeah. And then we add two break tag. BR. Just drop the other element to another level down, because most of these are you got the inline elements. As you see on the front end, the label and the input tags are inline. So most of these things are inline elements. So we use the break tag to bring down to their own block. Now Let's add a password area. So we see label, which is for password. ID. Oh, this is a mistake. Password ID. Okay. Now we say password. ID. Password. Yeah. Now the input type. Input type, which is type password. SSW password. Then ID password. Name password. Okay, password too. So this is another attribute or user validation in the password input tag. So this will say minimum length. The minimum length we need. So we can say we need 8 character. We can say we need 10 character. The minimum. If you type less than 6 character, the password won't save. So let's say minimum length uh, should be okay. Let's say 6, right? And then we add the required field because password is also required. But we are forced to type the password. Most of the time on the phone, you see that, right? Now we add a break tag. Another break. So that's save. Please don't forget to be saving. Though I'm using Prettier, like you see. Yeah, I'm using Prettier, so it's just formatting my code. That's a great plugin to use on VS Code. Yeah. So should we add another thing? Yes. Let's add an age, right? So we need a user to add an age also. So we add a label for age, which is age, right. Now we add the input type number. So we are expecting a digit. So we type number, right? So we are expecting a number. So we type number. Anytime we expecting a number to be typed into the form, we use number. What is for calculation? What is for age? Is for something that you expecting a number. So we type number. Now ID BH G, and then the name will be age. Okay. Now we have, let's add a minimum. Now, so yeah, we use minimum length, right, within the input tag. This one is different from the minimum length. This just a minimum age. You want to set let's say if you don't want user that is below that age range to use your site, so we use the minimum person. The minimum age for this form is 18. So let's say min, no, it's min, then say 18. And then the maximum, we use max, which is the opposite, max. Okay, max, and let's say 60, or let's say 70. Yeah, 70 years also uses nah. Okay, then use 60. Yeah. Then I add a break tag. Break tag. Okay. Now, so all these things that we are typing, we also need something that we can use to submit this form. Now, if you go back to the front end here, you see all this is there, right? But how do you submit the form when you are done? There's no button there, so we need to add a button to submit this form. So do that by adding an input tag. We add an input tag. For this one, we don't need a label. So we say button, or we say submit, which is just specify our button, submit button. So we say submit, and then value. There's another attribute, submit, which is for the submit button. Like you see here, this is why we appear on the button. Submit. Alright. Here's a value for that submit button. Now, right. So I think this is okay. Let's save this and go back to the front end so we can test our form, right? Okay. So you see now, you see as you hover over, you say please fill out this field. Please fill out this field. Now, if you just click on this submit button without entering any information, see what will be showing there. Please fill out this field. I mean, it's required. This is coming from the required. You see here. If you have it, you can see it, right? Because it's not required. I mean, you can submit this from without an issue. It doesn't matter. But this field is coming from the required attributes. You see, right? You see there. You see, right? So if we enter our name here, Tersh Paco, and email address, we say Tersh Paco Tech@gmail.com 2488 488. Now, if you don't enter a real email into this field, it won't go. So let's test it, right? I just do it and this is, and then come to password. So look at the password field. As we tap, you will see something. You see, it's not showing a text or number, right? Because this is a password field. As you enter, it will show dot 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 dot. That's the privacy of, that's the beauty of password. So we all use when you're expecting a password, you use the tap password, which will encrypt the the text when you are entering it. Now we can leave this age, but now this will not be accepted. So if we submit, you will see you have to please include an at in the email address. So this is what I'm talking about. This at sign tells that it's a valid email. So if you don't add the at sign, it won't go. Now if we just add the at sign and then submit, it will ask you again. Please enter a path following at. Now you gotta add a dot com. It's use the run position. You got so add what? You gotta add a Gmail, Gmail. Done. So the form is valid now. So we can submit. You see, you just see that because we are using our local server. So let's go back. So as you can see, it's valid, and we submitted with add this age. So you can type the age if you want, or if you type, let's say 12, and then add the password, it won't go because you see, it's saying value must be greater than or equal to 18. So you see, validation is very good for HTML forms, and it gives the user, it gives we the developer the opportunity to set up criteria that when the user don't meet that criteria, they won't use our form, or they won't be able to submit our form. So I hope you learn a thing or two. You can practice until you get familiar with these attributes, and so you can get a better idea of what HTML form is and how to validate why we validate our HTML form. So I'm Dash, and don't forget to like and share my video so you can reach more people. Thanks. Okay, so let's close this.